Hi there folks, Big John here. Thanks for joining me for another great motorbiking adventure. Now this time my friend Mick and I will ride the fabulous scenic Picos de Europa area of northern Spain. We will then ride down into Portugal and on via the Douro Valley wine region, aiming then for the fantastic roads and scenery of the Serra da Estrela, Portugal's highest mountain range. After the mountains, our next stop would be the coastal town of Porto, famed for its stately bridges and port wine production. We will spend 2 nights there and enjoy a rest from riding to take in the sights of this vibrant town before beginning our journey back into Spain and then on to Santander to catch our ferry home to the UK. Now my trips are always adventures, and as soon as we set off for Plymouth to catch the overnight ferry to Santander in Spain, the rain started. This turned out to be very useful practice, as we certainly got plenty more rain during the trip. I was surprised how many bikers were on this crossing, and they crammed us in down in the bows of the boat. We couldn't wait to get off and enjoy the great roads in the Picos. And we made our way to our first overnight at Potes, which is a small, attractive town surrounded by tall mountains. It's really windy today. Here we are up on the top of the Picos de Europa. Now, I'd planned a 14-day trip covering more than 2,500 miles, and the map shows an outline of the route with 2 night stays at the red waypoints so that we could ride the best roads in those surrounding areas. Potes in the Picos, Chaves just into northern Portugal, and then Covia in the Serra da Estrela mountains. And then, finally, on the way back, a rest day to take in the sights of Porto on the banks of the Douro River and have a nice lunch washed down with a glass or 2 of the local wine. It was early October by the time we left the Picos Mountains to ride south to Chaves in Portugal. We had an overnight stop at a small Spanish hotel on the way. The dinner menu had some of the local delicacies on offer, such as chicken gizzards. So I chose a veal cutlet instead. Turned out to be a piece of meat as big as the plate. Great value. The next morning, we woke up to find our bikes covered in a film of ice. Thankfully, the sun soon came out and we rode some great roads through fantastic scenery heading for Portugal. We are now approaching the Portugal border. The scenery has changed and the roads here are really just made for motorbiking. Soon we'll be riding the fabulous N103 from Braganza to our hotel in Chaves. 60 miles of biking heaven with sweeping corners through more great scenery. After a great day's riding, we arrived at our hotel, the Fort of São Francisco. Originally built at the beginning of the 16th century, the fort occupies a commanding position overlooking the town of Chaves. It was classified as a national monument in 1938 and repurposed as a hotel in 1944. In 2019, it underwent extensive renovation and is now a modern four-star hotel, but with historic aspects highlighted and preserved, such as the on-site chapel of São Francisco. But tonight, we thought it only right that we should celebrate arriving in Portugal by sampling some of the excellent and relatively inexpensive Douro Valley wine. The next morning, we set off to ride a planned 200-mile loop of the roads around Chaves. The weather forecast suggested we might catch some rain around lunchtime. Now, we did ride some great roads in the morning, and we stopped for lunch at a little cafe on a lake just above waypoint 6. But then the rain came, so we cut out the northern part of the loop and rode directly back to Chaves from Braga on the N103. Somewhere in Portugal, west of Chaves. Fantastic road, beautiful road surface, very grippy. There's Mick's bike. R1200 RS. There's my bike, R1200 GS. Beautiful road. We're now up at the top of the hill or the mountain, and we have a lovely view over the valley. Beautiful sunny day, absolutely fantastic. It's now day 6 of our trip, and today we ride south through Portugal to our next destination near Cavia in the Serra da Estrela Mountains, where we'll spend 3 nights. It's going to be a big day, 240 miles to ride of fabulous twisty roads through the Douro Valley and other ever-changing scenic countryside. Thankfully, the rain has gone and it's dry for the ride. We are now very much in the wine growing region, and as you can see, the roads have vineyards on either side. We found a pull-in and decided to park up to take a video of the valley featuring the tiered vineyards stretching out as far as we could see. Douro Valley wine growing region in Portugal. In fact, a few miles further on, we were able to pull over for a water break right by the vines. As we continued our journey south, the landscape changed again, now becoming more rugged, and soon we were entering the mountainous Serra da Estrela National Park. We did a quick stop to take in the spectacular view. We saw signs that said we were at an altitude of about 1,800 metres. The wind was blowing strongly, and judging by the snow poles, they must get some rough winters here. It was quite cold in the wind, so we jumped back on the bikes to ride the last few kilometres to our hotel. We planned to finish our journey at the 4-star Luna Hotel in the park, where we would spend 3 nights, giving us the opportunity to ride the fantastic roads in the region at our leisure over the next couple of days. Now, with so many good motorcycling roads through the Serra da Estrela Natural Park and the surrounding areas, we were spoilt for choice. so we planned a couple of routes which pretty much covered everything over the next 2 days. It was nice to be able to ride without luggage for a change, but we did pack our wet gear, and this turned out to be very wise, as the weather in October can be very different at 1,800 metres up a mountain, as we found out. I've put together a selection of onboard bike footage which will give you a good feel for the mix of roads, the scenery and the weather we encountered during our ride. You probably noticed as we rode up the mountain how quickly the weather changed from sun to mist, then into the clouds, then rain with very low visibility. And we finally rode out of the clouds, but the rain and the mist stayed. We did manage to find a bar that was open in a small town on the other side of the Serra, and we enjoyed a cup of coffee and a cake while we warmed up. The rain radar showed that we were stuck with it for the rest of the day, so we deleted some waypoints to shorten the ride back to the hotel. It's all part of the adventure. It's now day 9 and time to ride to our next destination, which is Porto on the coast, and we'll enjoy a well-earned rest day. As we set off, it was a nice sunny morning, so we decided to stop at an overlook near the hotel. Now this involved a short detour off-road to take in the fabulous view. And here we are on a nice morning on an overlook of Cavia, which is the Estrela da Serra in Portugal. And as you can see, we are right on top of the hill. And then, next stop, Porto. Porto is a coastal town where the Douro River meets the sea. It's the second largest city in Portugal, known for its stately bridges and port wine production. Now, our little hotel, called the Porto Charming Hotel, was in a narrow back street and chosen because of its secure bike parking. The plan for our rest day was to walk down to the riverside, check out the main sights, and then find a good fish restaurant for a nice leisurely lunch and a glass of wine. The day was overcast but not raining. Although there were lots of interesting things to see, it would all have looked a lot better if the sun had been out. It's now day 11 and time for us to head back up north and start the journey back to Santander in Spain. Today's ride is 215 miles, and tonight we would stay at Puebla de Sanabria, a small medieval town just over the border into Spain. Its magnificent castle dates from the second half of the 15th century. It was raining when we set off from Porto, and it was raining hard when we arrived at the hotel, which was in the main square at the historic centre of the village near the castle. The roads leading up were steep, narrow and cobbled, certainly not ideal in the rain after a long ride on a motorbike. On the morning of day 12, it was still cold and wet, and the rain radar forecast showed it would rain most of the way on our 200-mile route to our final overnight stop at Potes back in the Picos. We decided that rather than ride twisty roads all the way in the rain, we would change the early part of the route to A roads and plan to join up with our original twisty route as we neared the Picos de Europa, by which time we hoped the rain would have cleared. And clear it did. We even saw the sun, although still cloudy overall, especially as we got closer to Potes, surrounded by the Picos Mountains. We did get to enjoy some good roads, but we kept our wet gear on as it wasn't so warm. It's now very much the off-season and very few tourists about. Those who know Potes and how busy it is in the season will appreciate the contrast of these photos in October, especially the solitary one of me having a beer before dinner. The restaurant at our hotel was closed, so no dinner available. Instead, we found a very nice pizza place just a few hundred yards away and reminisced about what a great trip we'd had over a bottle of the local red. It's now day 13, our last day in Spain, and we will ride to Santander to get the overnight ferry back to Plymouth. Check-in time is 5 p.m, so no need to rush. We can have a route with nice twisty roads and scenery for our last ride in Spain. We arrived at the port to find our sailing was delayed as the incoming ferry was late due to rough seas in the Bay of Biscay. We finally departed a couple of hours late and headed out to sea for what was indeed a rough crossing. Thank you for watching my video. I certainly recommend the Picos and the Serra da Estrela to all most cyclists. I hope you get the chance and the opportunity to ride their roads one day. Now, my next big trip will be in June 2025. It's already planned and booked. This time, Mick and I will ride through France, Germany, Austria and Slovenia down to Split in Croatia. We will then get a ferry across to Italy and ride up through Tuscany to Bologna, where we will visit the famous Ducati factory. We will then ride across Italy and finally back to Calais via France and the Route des Grandes Alpes. It's going to be a good one, so stay tuned and ride safe.